Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And this is our spoiler-filled review of the new Rian Johnson film, Knives Out. We saw it this weekend. Sabrina and I saw it over Thanksgiving. This movie has made pretty good money box office-wise, so a lot of people have seen it. The marketing worked. And we have thoughts. RB3, you already told us your thoughts. Mm-hmm. You really love this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, right away, we can get into spoilers, but general thoughts as a whole. Sabrina, I kind of want to hear you.
I really loved it. I loved Rian Johnson's energy. You could tell he loved it, and everybody, a part of the cast, was so into it. I even saw like behind-the-scenes photos, and when they were filming other people's scenes, they'd all be like chilling watching. Mm-hmm. That's a cool thing to see, you know? It's just a fun, energetic set, and we can feel that with that final product. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Glad we saw it on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we saw it together, and I love talking about movies that we see together, like whether it's you and I seen Moonlight or Lady Bird, but no, that we've seen a movie together. Just the ideas and the thoughts we had coming out of the theater, and you were just like, oh, yeah. And I was like, I love that movie, because I really did, man. I think Knives Out, it's interesting, because I was having this debate in my head and having this debate, you know, seeing it on film Twitter, but the idea of fun and how that word has been used so much with superhero movies, with comic book movies, with dumb blockbuster movies. But the idea that it's being used for this movie, a movie that I don't consider to be dumb, a movie that I consider to be smart, and the fact that it can be just as fun as a Marvel movie. In my opinion, this movie is so much fun. It's a blast. I had fun watching this movie. The comedy, the twists and turns, the characters, the archetypes they play, the
donut monologue.
The donut monologue was hysterical. It's just really a fun time at the movies. And I think that's a rare thing to see if it's not inside a genre blockbuster type movie. And that's, to me, is the biggest takeaway I have for this movie, is the idea of having so much smart dialogue, smart moments, funny moments.
Smart characters.
And the idea that it could be great performances and it could be elevated to, I know you're probably going to disagree, but some people are being like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's give this movie an award. Like, let's nominate it for shit, because it's that good of a movie. And I feel like let's bring that back. Let's bring back comedies into award attention. Let's bring back these kind of fun thrillers into award. In my opinion, I think it's that good. I think it really is a great movie. Mm-hmm. So.
No, I agree with your point. I think we should be celebrating films of all different genres, all different types of films. You never want to look at like a list and find it boring. Like, this is supposed to be something like, this is the top tier of film in this year. Like, that's how we're supposed to look at it. So something like, you know, Hereditary last year, last year. Yeah. And then with Knives Out this year, it would be cool if it, you know, got some consideration. I think it definitely deserves it.
I think so. And obviously the movie centers around the character of Marta Cabrera.
Yeah.
Bro.
You were surprised when I said that in the initial review.
I was very surprised, because she's barely in the trailer,
That's
bro.
What, you know, it's funny. I watched the trailers after I saw the movie. The trailers are very kind of misleading.
I was going to say, they're low-key misleading, because she's barely in the trailer. I was like, I don't even know
she
was in
the
there.
leading lady.
Yeah. Bro, I told you, literally in the movie theater, I lost it when Daniel Craig was like, Mrs. Cabrera. And I was like, yo, that's me. Yeah. And I was like, I'm out here. We out here, man.
That's it.
I was just thinking of a line in the movie. This movie's funny, so I just have favorite lines. Immigrants, we get the job done.
That's a good. There's a lot of.
And I was like, just like, you get it, Hamilton. And I was like, bro, this is so funny. But I just like the idea of Daniel Craig playing that stereotypical private investigator.
Southern
as hell. I love that he was Southern.
Just for no reason.
No.
I just didn't get that from the trailer. I didn't get that from when he said like, oh, I suspect foul play. I just didn't see.
Oh, really?
I didn't know
he
that
did
he
it
was
in
like
Logan
Southern.
Lucky. I think he just likes doing it.
No. I just didn't know from the trailer that that's the kind of character he was going to be. So that killed me watching it. I loved it.
I thought it was so funny and refreshing to have like a super smart guy be like the Southern country man, like, in just the way he speaks. And I'm like, hell yeah, bro, let's get it. Let's go. And obviously his final monologue is just top tier, funny, interesting, innovative.
What somebody pointed out on Twitter that I didn't notice when I was watching it, even first or second time, is that while he does the monologue, he unbuttons his sleeves.
Oh yeah,
and
he's rolling up his sleeves
and then tucks it in. But then by the time the monologue's over, he's back to suit being normal and fully back on. Like he literally undoes and does his entire.
I noticed
thing,
him
like,
doing that, but I didn't notice he put everything back.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's
amazing.
amazing. I just love the idea of Lakeith trying to butt in. He's like, we get, and he's like, and then when the donut reaches inside that other donut, and the way that he just keeps going and he's just ranting, and you're like, dude, this is incredible.
Right.
Let's talk about the idea of a murder mystery and the twist being inside this movie. I told you one of my favorite parts of this movie was the idea that they don't really have that. They tell you who the killer was like 30 minutes in the movie, and I thought that was cool. I was like. Yeah. Oh, we know who did it. And it's this idea of covering it up and the fact that you're kind of on her side trying to cover it up with her, like the audiences, because usually we want the killer to be caught. But now we're just like, we're kind of rooting against Daniel Craig's character. And we're just like, don't
catch her.
Yeah, don't catch her. Like, cover the mud tracks. Like, cover everything she does.
That's why I mentioned in the initial review about it being subversive.
Yeah.
That's how it's subversive. Like
and I love the idea of us rooting for the killer, and it's this idea of where that comes from. I want to talk to you, RB3, because I know a lot of people are throwing out the political word. Yeah. They're like, political. And I was like, oh, I get it. And I really thought of you because I was like, you're spot on with what you said in your first review, that it shows like the super left hippie lady, Toni Collette, and the Catherine, the Hannah Baker. Yeah. And it shows like the Michael Shannon right wing and the Don Johnson right wing. They're both equally shitty. And it was like, it doesn't really matter left or right. It's more about kind of a class issue, and it's much more about like everyone loses their damn minds when it comes to money. And when it comes to her receiving the will, everyone just loses it. They were like, F you, screw you. And it's like, what happened to being like this nice liberal? And it goes down the damn drain because they're pieces of shit. Like every single one of them. And the only good person there is her.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to look at, even when they do have like political arguments themselves, how like the things they're arguing about are not going to affect them. Yeah. Like they're arguing and they're like, okay, cool, but they're going on, they're living their lives. So it's funny to see it in that aspect.
Yeah. And it's really something I heard an interview with Rian Johnson. He talked about that, how the fact that the fact that it's still like a class thing, whether you could be as left as you want to be, but you're probably still going to be looking down somewhat on someone if they're like inferior when it comes to budget, when it comes to money. And the idea of them being like, we'll help you out, Marta,
we'll always take care of you, we'll take care. And one of the scenes that really resonated with me is when Don Johnson's going on his long monologue, like, you came here, your family came here, and you built this all yourself, and he's literally saying this while handing her a plate to like take away from him. Like, it's crazy, like how smart that is.
Absolutely, and the fact that I talked to you, obviously, we talked about it quite a bit after the movie theater. The fact that scene is the most, personally, as an immigrant, that's the most cliche thing that people do with immigrants, especially Latino immigrants, is the fact that they go up to you and they're like, well, you came here legally, you're one of the good ones, and and it's that idea. It's like, nah, fam, I still came here illegally. And it's that idea of like what an illegal immigrant is. An illegal immigrant is like the guy who picks up your trash, and it's like, nah, an illegal immigrant's Marta and her family. They're literally undocumented. That's a literal plot point in the movie. And it's this idea like, well, Marta's cool, like, she's cool. And it's like, well, she's illegal, bro. Like, she's just as illegal as the guy picking up your trash and everyone you look down on. And it's that idea of like undocumented immigrants are the hardest working, sometimes the most righteous people in a room. And it's that idea of other people looking down on them. And it's like the irony that they are probably morally superior than you are.
Right.
So
no, it's interesting because like coming off of what you said, it's kind of like when an immigrant is doing really well, they're like, oh, look at this example. Like, look at people, like they did this amazing thing. So so going off of your thing. But then if they're not, then it's talking shit.
What did you guys think of Chris Evans' character in this movie, who I feel like steals the movie at the very end, like slightly steals it, because I still feel like Daniel Craig is like the best part. What do you guys think of his twist being like, oh, he's like the asshole with a heart, and it's like, oh no, he's the asshole with an asshole.
Yeah.
And the fact that literally in her monologue, Ana de Armas, literally says like, because you're an asshole. I lost it when she said that because she was like piecing everything together, and it's like, I get it now, you're an asshole. And I was like, that's so funny.
Her accent wasn't that.
I just felt that.
Yeah.
But either way, I just thought that was hysterical when she said that, because it's that irony of like, he's actually the killer. He actually planted the whole thing, and then he had like a slight backup plan. I loved it. I love that twist, and I told you I figured it out like slightly when Daniel Craig was figuring it out, a little earlier. Basically, when they said like, we saw the grandmama. Saw what's his name in the movie? Ransom.
Yeah.
We saw caught Ransom. She saw Ransom, and I was like, oh, so he's definitely the one who did it. That's kind of how I thought of it. What did you figure anything out about his character?
Oh, I knew he did it from like the second the movie started. I mean, because they're only because like they did the whole thing of like they're not going to show him for the first act. Yeah. So like he got to be some sort of important. That's the only just from typical storytelling conventions I was able to tell
got me, man. I really thought he was the good guy for a second. I was like, oh, what if he is the asshole with a heart? Like maybe he's
But I love the scene when for one, I love the scene when they're all freaking out and they're like all chasing her, and the camera kind of goes from this smooth, steady pushing to then it goes off the dolly, and like it's all handheld and stuff,
like almost like found footage.
Yeah. Shit, and then she gets into the car, and then Chris Evans like pulls up next to her and is like, come on, let's go. To me, I love that scene. I just love that moment.
It seems incredible. And the fact that I had to give a quick shout out because I lost it when he was driving that Beamer. Yeah. That old school, like Bond-like Beamer. I was like, yo, that's a little shout out to Bond. And I was like, that's cool. That's a funny little thing that I appreciated being like a car Bond guy that I am, because I love that stuff. So.
Did you see that twist coming?
So something I mentioned last week, I'm going to get into it in a second, but I mentioned that he was the standout of the trailer. And I don't know why. I just kind of like knew he was like a little in on something, and then especially with like the act or the first act, how he's not really in it and stuff like that. So just following it, I was like narrowing it down. Like each scene, I'm like, okay, it might be this person. This is why, and like whatever, and like the fight and everything. But yeah, so I didn't see the twist coming the way it came. So
I didn't. Yeah, see that was the thing when they show you that she's the one who actually killed him. Yeah. You think, oh well, there's no way he could have done it now. But then, but yeah, the way they unfold that is brilliant.
Well, to be fair, the first idea I had was like, why would she make that mistake? That's the first thing that I kept saying. It was like, well, if she's so good, like no matter how distracted you are, you wouldn't inject that. You would be smart. And then I was like, oh, what if someone mess with it or something like that? So I did have that idea in my head. I just didn't put the pieces together towards the end.
Yeah, no. But I loved Chris Evans so much in this. It's so refreshing to see him in this kind of role, because I feel like he's always like, good guy Captain America. So I needed to see something like this from him. So I really loved everything that he did. Yeah.
It was interesting. It was definitely an interesting role to play because it had different layers. I really did enjoy the crap out of this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. My favorite running joke in the entire movie, I told you, was the fact that they kept saying different countries when it comes to March. She's like, Ecuador, Paraguay,
Brazil,
Uruguay. And I literally laughed out loud when Chris Evans was like, "You're Brazilian made?"
Yeah.
So good.
Brazilian's like the last straw. You're like, brah, it's over. I love that joke. Man. Any favorite lines or quotes or moments?
Like I said, I love the donut monologue. Yeah. It's a donut inside of another mini donut. Like I'm like, oh, this is funny. This is just funny.
Oh, dude, I love that. And he's like, inside that donut lives another one. And I was just like, dude.
Yeah.
So good.
The one that killed the second time I watched it, absolutely destroyed the theater, was when Daniel Craig was like, that little the little Nazi that was masturbating in the bathroom. That literally that was funny. That was hilarious. There's so many good iconic moments.
How about you, Sabrina?
Early on, when her sister's watching like the murder mystery movie, and they keep the person in the movies like going into like all these different details, and they're like, we have the nanny cam footage. I don't know why. That one got me.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
And the fact that they kept going on, it's like, you burn him, then crisp him, then cut him into pieces, then and I was like, oh yeah. They kept getting more and more violent.
I love that one.
That was great.
I really liked at first I was like, where is this going? But the idea of the fake knife at the end, I love. And he was like, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
and it kept taking it out.
I
Like,
knew
crap.
it. I knew it right when he was
Really?
reaching for the
I
knife.
didn't.
Yeah, I did.
I was like, oh, damn,
I was
Ryan.
like, retractable. I was about to like turn to you and be like, oh, but I wasn't gonna say anything.
Well, see, the first time I saw it, I was like, damn, he just grabbed a knife like that.
Yeah.
But then I didn't realize until watching it the second time that people were playing with that knife throughout the entire movie.
Oh,
so then,
really?
Yeah, I think during one of the interviews, somebody was like playing with or toying with it or something like that. Yeah. So then like they do show that knife really wasn't supposed to be working anyway. So it was really good.
And then
really,
Christopher Plummer says something. He has a line, and I'm like, that's going to come back. The second he said it, I forgot what he said, something about knives and which one's real and which one's like retractable
Oh,
or
that's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
So the second
you
he
never
said
know
it,
which
I
is
was
real,
like,
which is fake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the second he said it, I was like, that's going to come back for sure. So that's why I think that's what had me. That's why I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, by the way, just one more thing. That last shot. I mean, when she's taking a sip of the coffee and then it just has the little
Rolling
My
Stones
House.
plays.
Yeah.
Sweet
Was
Virginia.
that not like an amazing way
It was
to end
incredible.
that movie?
Yeah.
It was
to
incredible.
me that just brings me to tears. Like both times I saw it, I was like,
And it
"Aw."
became like a meme.
So
It's
good.
already become
Yeah.
a meme.
I've seen like
Yeah.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
With it. Yeah.
With the cup and she
Yeah.
was like,
With the
oh
cup.
really?
It's
Oh,
like,
that's funny.
My coffee, my
My house, my rules.
Yeah.
It's
That's
that
good.
idea of like someone just coming up and being given something that they feel like they don't deserve, and then realizing, you know what?
They deserve it
I
the
do
most.
deserve it.
Yeah.
I am going to take my money and run. I am going to take this win. I'm going to take this W. I'm going to stop being so accommodating to everyone else and stop feeling inferior to other people who have more money than me and start saying, you know what? I'm going to take this house. I'm going to take this money and I'm going to sip my tea and look down on you from my upper, floor or whatever it was. I just love that idea. And I really like the idea of what Daniel Craig says in his monologue. The idea that Chris Evans' plan failed because she was the only one with a heart.
Yeah.
Everyone else is so heartless that they can't imagine someone doing the right thing, which is, reporting it and saying, you know what, I did kill him, and admitting the whole thing. She was willing to do that because she had a good heart.
Right.
And that idea of like in this world of like, I'm right, I'm politically this, I'm politically left, or I'm doing this right, or I'm the correct person. The one who actually makes the right choices is the immigrant, is the other, is that idea of someone coming up from a different avenue from you. And I just was like, bro,
Yeah. 'Cause she's
drop all the mics to Rian Johnson. That was dope. Dope.
Because the entire time she's an outsider. They're like, oh, we wanted to invite you
We
to the
wanted to
funeral.
invite you, but I got outvoted.
I got outvoted. They all
And
like
the fact
say
that
it.
everyone said that.
Yeah, I
which
voted, and
means-
then they all said that I voted for you too. Like they all said
which
that.
means that
Yeah.
they all voted no.
Yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
but
I
she's
was
that
like,
outsider.
yo.
So her coming in and kind of like,
Yeah,
doing her thing.
absolutely.
Loved it.
And the fact that Hannah Baker too, shout out to Hannah Baker.
Catherine
Catherine
Langford.
Langford
Yeah.
was also like,
Yeah.
low key, like I'm using your own weaknesses against you. I'm gonna pull out the kryptonite and say
Yeah.
and tell everyone that she's undocumented.
That's the one loose shred that the movie never explains, or at least they don't show. At least her telling Hannah
Oh
Baker.
yeah, but they
that-
don't have to show it. I
Yeah,
mean, you could
yeah.
assume that it's from she told her a couple of years ago. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But absolutely, I love this movie. It's honestly one of my favorites of the year. It's up there for me. I had a blast, and I really do feel like it deserves all the praise that it's getting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've loved it since I saw it. I loved it since we did the review. Love it
Yeah.
now. So can't speak any highly of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm glad
Last
Rian
thoughts?
Johnson has this. It's doing really well at the box office, so hopefully
Yeah.
it continues. Came out over Thanksgiving, which I said last week, I think is like perfect for something
Yeah,
like this. I
yeah.
wish I could see it with my family.
I forgot to mention that the idea of Rian Johnson in this movie, and I know a lot of people have already pulled out the pitchforks, but I kind of thought the final I thought I had when I was, what's up?
Somebody called this movie CSI KFC. I just can't stop thinking about the CSI KFC.
That was Chris Evans,
yeah,
right?
Chris Evans said it.
Yeah. That's incredible. Like, dude,
Yeah.
that's such a great line.
Yeah,
So good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the idea of him taking his filmmaking elements, whether it comes from Brick, whether it comes from Looper, whether it comes from Brothers Bloom, because there's a lot of similar aspects from Brothers Bloom to this one.
Yeah.
And putting it in a movie that fits perfectly. All his silly comedy moments that kind of didn't work in The Last Jedi, that we agreed didn't really work perfectly in this
Yeah.
movie.
Right.
And it's that idea of him taking everything he's ever done and fitting it inside this Agatha Christie genre that fits so well. I was like, actually, the silliness works in this one, and it didn't work in The Last Jedi. That's perfect. Like, it's a perfect Rian Johnson movie, in my opinion, because he can take everything he likes and make it work inside one movie without the restraints of being like a Star Wars movie that he didn't do right or whatever it is. So I love that. I was like, man, do more of this, man. I like it.
I
like
really,
this is good.
really enjoyed it. Really happy for him for this.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys, those are our thoughts on Knives Out. Obviously, we wanted to talk about it a little bit more. We already did a review. If you want to check out our non-spoiler review, RB3 has that one up on the channel. So you can check that out on First Cut, our YouTube channel, for the meeting of and for our review of Knives Out. I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And you're peacing out. Peace out, guys.
I think you have something you want to tell me.